under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will do a roll call of the members, but before we do the roll call of the members, one thing that I need to ask is that all members please have their cameras on, so that I have it for the proper rules of order, so that we know that you are at the meeting. So roll call of members. Myself, Ralph DeChico is here. Pauline is trying to log in, or she will dial in. Pauline Perno, so we'll skip on her for right now. We have Jason Barone.
Yeah.
Present. Okay. Mario Gramanis.
Present.
Okay. Robert Brown.
Present.
And Ellie Vargas is absent. I received a notification that she was not going to be able to attend. And who else I have? Let me just put in Asma Alfuda is absent. So next I had sent the members the meeting minutes from our October 10th meeting. I'm not sure if the members that are on here were able to see them, take a look at them. But if you did, if there's no issues or anything, if a member can make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Motion to approve. Second.
Jason made the motion to approve, and Mario seconded it. Okay. Okay. Next on here was the updates and next steps from the October 10th meeting. The only update we have is if Pauline had any regarding calendar for future monthly guests. So we'll skip on that for right now to see if she comes on. Item number 3, wanted to welcome Deborah Nealon Keegan from Kids Only After School. She's joining us to give us a little presentation about the Youth in Motion program and what they offer, especially for children with disabilities. Debbie, please, thank you for joining us. If you could introduce yourself, and if you need me to give you any screen share capabilities, please let me know, and we'll make sure that works.
Thank you, Ralph, and thank you so much for inviting me to join the commission. I honor all of you for doing the important work you are doing, and including children and adults and community members with disabilities, or with different abilities, as we call them. So a little bit about myself. I hold a master's degree in school administration and certification as a special education teacher and administrator. And I was a special education teacher for both the public and the private sector. I worked in the public schools as the second alternative high school director in the Commonwealth back in the late 70s. And I also was a special ed teacher in a school for children with emotional disabilities. And in 1984, I myself and another teacher recognized that there was a need in the communities that we resided and worked in during the out-of-school time hours. Back then, children would go home with a key around their neck. They were called latchkey children. And we realized that all the hard work that school day teachers were putting into the day with children much of it was being lost when the children were out on the streets after school. And so I felt the compelling desire and need to stop what I was doing as the alternative high school director and open up a not-for-profit. And so since 1984, we'll be celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. For Kids Only After School has run out-of-school time programs licensed by the Department of Early Education and Care, serving children from various socioeconomic backgrounds of all varying capabilities in the communities right now, specifically Chelsea, Everett, Revere, Peabody, and Winthrop. And pre-COVID, we were also in Salem and Boston. We presently are open year-round, every day after school until 6 p.m. We're open on school vacations and in the summertime from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're open on early release days. We essentially open whenever school doors are closed so that families are comfortable while at work, knowing their children have a safe space to be. And in the community of Revere, we started in 1998. We were invited to partner with the school district by the superintendent, who was Carol Ty at the time, and Mayor Ambrosino at the time, to partner in the community. And for a long time, we were housed in the public schools, running programs in the public schools. We were fortunate 15 years ago to be selected by the United Way Mass Bay as a lead agency to because of our social and emotional learning work that happened during the out of school time hours. And we received a grant, a few grants by when Michelle Obama was campaigning for her Keeping Children Healthy campaign, and really pushing that we would address the health needs of children, whether it was their physical, mental, social, emotional health. And so we were received funding to build the facility on Broadway, which we coined Youth in Motion, because of the funding that went with that program. Since that time, although we are doing a lot of health and fitness work with youth, we have expanded more into social and emotional learning and mindfulness work during the after school hours, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute. And so it's interesting that I'm talking with you right now, because you'll be the first to hear that we're going back to our original name of For Kids Only After School, which is our legal name. And you'll see the signage changing on our building, because that's who we are, and that's our nonprofit status. And we're providing programming in so many other areas as well. So if you would just allow me to share my screen, I can tell you a little bit about our Count Me In model. Would that be possible, Ralph?
You have the is it allowing you to?
No, it said you disabled me. Let me try it again. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Let me see. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Trying to see. Everything has changed. Pauline, is that you on here? You're on mute.
Now am I unmuted?
Yes.
I should be unmuted now.
Yeah, thank
Sorry
you,
about
Pauline.
that. It will not let me come in any other way. Sorry.
Okay, I'm trying to get screen sharing capabilities.
So as you're doing that, I can talk a little bit about the program that we have right now on Broadway. I'm sure you all know the building. It's a very prominent building with the red tower. That building is licensed to serve 140 school-age children. We serve presently children in grades K through 5. We used to serve middle school students as well. However, we had a huge wait list, and we had to make the hard choice of letting our middle schoolers leave and hopefully go someplace else in the community, which is something that we are working very hard with the present mayor now to address that critical need of that age population. So right now we have a full house, so to speak, of 140 school-age children. And we have a full-time site director there. We have a full-time social worker. We have inclusion specialist, and we have one-on-ones for those children that need that accommodation in order to be successful in our program.
Give it a try, Deb.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's see. Hold on. Okay, can you see this? Is that clear?
No,
You can't see it?
I can't. No.
Huh, okay. Let me go back. Share screen, desktop.
There we go.
Got it?
There we go.
Okay. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. So this is our Count Me In model of inclusion. Here at FKO, all children are welcome, including those with economically disadvantaged, those who have disabilities or severe behavioral problems, those who have been identified as socially isolated, or who have been exposed to abuse, neglect, or trauma. We hold a contract with the State Department of Early Education and Care to provide for any child who has experienced abuse or neglect at the home. Those children are prioritized in our program to come free of charge. We also presently have a contract to serve any migrant children from 5 identified countries right now. They can be served immediately if you know of any families from either Vietnam, Haiti, Afghanistan, Iraqi, and I can't think of the other one. There's one more and it'll come to me. But however, what happens with Count Me In is, although we don't believe in expulsion or termination, we find that not every child is able to be successful in our program without extra help or supports they need to boost their cognitive, social, and emotional development. So we have a commitment that we've made with our staff and our board to inclusion. And we look at inclusion as a philosophy, not as a practice, although it is a practice. It's the belief system that every child should be celebrated and promoted, and known that we all count and we all belong. And so we use this tiered system of inclusion support that addresses this through a comprehensive system using social workers, as I told you, clinicians, family workers, and other inclusion supports so that all children feel successful. The way we support this is by partnering with our community partners, our families, classroom teachers, with the schools that the children go to, principals, the school administration, social workers, inclusion specialists, out-of-school time educators who we hired who are qualified, and then our full-time site directors. Some of the strategies that we use is positive reinforcement and praise, logical consequences. We have mindful thinking time. We have take a break areas, calm corners, sensory tools, reflection forms, and we do a lot of meditation and breathing. We do not believe in timeout. We look at timeout as a punitive approach to change, especially with children that have experienced a lot of trauma, or those children who are not comfortable in their own self. And so instead, we use a more positive behavioral approach to learning. And then, as I explained to you, we also have inclusion specialists, and these are skilled specialists who have experience in inclusion, social emotional learning, and trauma-informed instructional strategies. All of our staff are trained in safety care, which is a research evidence-based approach to working with children. And then our specialists, our inclusion specialists, are in the programs modeling and coaching our staff and working with children who need small group help or specialized social skill groups. We work following what's called the CASEL framework, which stands for the Collaborative of Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. And we work on these 5 key areas of self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, responsible decision-making, and relationship skills. Because we feel like if the students, the children themselves, are more self-aware and can manage and self-regulate their emotions, then they'll be more open to learning and to working with others. We have seen a tremendous change, a shift in needs of the children since post-COVID. We've seen a lot of children who have been significantly impacted by the trauma of the pandemic. And so we've had to put a lot of additional supports in place in Revere. We also accept students that are outsourced for education. So children that go to, say, Shore Collaborative or SEAM, they can come to our program after school. We work with those schools to make sure that the service plans for those children are individually accommodating for them. So I talked a little bit about our systemic framework with Castle. And a little bit more about who we are. This is our, we call it our tier system of support. So all of our children, if you look at the bottom tier, this is what all children that go to FKO receive, which is the positive behavior guidance framework, right? A supportive environment, positive relationships, a non-punitive environment. Some of the children need a little bit more than that. So some of the children might need these inclusion specialists that are in the classroom to help them accommodate and be successful. Our social workers and our social work interns also may work with some of these children. And these are more targeted children who have more targeted programs and curriculum. And then a few of our children have specialized after-school support plans. So these are children that may have specialized IEPs during the school day. We do not see IEPs carry into the out-of-school time hours. And so we have to figure out how do we make our own IEP, so to speak, during the after-school hours, so that the same language, the same supports are in place and the child can still be successful during the out-of-school time hours. So this might mean a one-on-one aid, for example. Any child who receives funding to come to the program because they are of lower economic, their families are of lower economic status, they are eligible to apply for a one-on-one aid through the Department of Early Education and Care. And we have a number of children that receive this accommodation. If your child is identified of having special needs or has an IEP in school, they are able to come, the family is able to come in up until the 85th percentile for subsidy from the state to help pay for their after-school programming. So a little bit more about, where am I now? I could stop sharing, and where am I here? Thank you. A little bit more about what we do. We do have a multilingual staff, so which I think I'm very proud of. Jake, our social worker, he is fluent in multiple languages. Our site director is Spanish speaking. We also have Portuguese speaking, and we also have consultants on staff for us for those populations, especially the caregivers who need to have conversation with us in their own native language in order to feel comfortable. We also employ representatives from the city, so we feel like that makes a difference. We're right now, by the way, if you know of anybody interested, seeking board members who represent the community of Revere, who look like the populations that we serve. So if you know of anybody that like to serve on our board, we have a great board, a very collaborative board, supportive board that meets once a month via Zoom. We also have transportation provided for free from all of the schools in the city of Revere, and as well as transportation on field trips in the summertime. And that bridges a huge socioeconomic and systemic issue that we face across the country, which is access to safe and reliable transportation for any child who wants to attend after-school programming from the schools they currently attend. We have at our site, and we're very proud when we built this site, handicap accessible ramps at all 3 entrances in play spaces. We have a handicap lift. We have electronic doors that allow a child in a wheelchair to access the building. We have handicap parking close to the door side entrance. And our air-conditioned indoor basketball court is wheelchair accessible via an elevator, which I've also and always thought is such an awesome accommodation in an after-school program. We have resource information and resources for all families in all variety of languages. I have a family case manager specifically for Revere to work with families who may need out of school time care for their child, and who might need accommodation greater than being in a regular ed classroom. Our classrooms our ratios are 1 to 10. We typically have 20 children in a classroom. And we have this intensive, comprehensive family intake process. So I think I'll leave it here and open to questions. Please feel comfortable to ask anything you may need to know that I haven't covered about our program. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Have we looked at the city of Boston in terms of, and I say this respectfully, but from you look at Mattapan, Dorchester, and Roxbury, where a lot of the kids are coming from rough neighborhoods and are going downtown and wreaking havoc, and that's usually the middle school kids that you just talked about, who are now left out of this, which, and I'm trying to be respectful of it, but and they turn into be thugs because they're beating up people, and that's the group that maybe could be fixed. You know, I'm just wondering if there's a way we could reach to that. I'm just thinking of that because that's where you might last chance might be able to get them before they're too late to turn. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. And I agree wholeheartedly with this. And you wouldn't believe the day we made this decision, my staff were in tears that this decision had to be made. We had to make it based on space constraints. And we looked at the developmental stage of the middle school children that we were serving. Many of them are high risk, right? That's why they need us every day after school, because they have no place to go and they are not involved in other types of after school activities. Many of them are state funded. Many of them are referred to us because of the risk factors that are involved, the adverse childhood experiences that they're dealing with. So to make a long story short, we had to make this hard decision. What I have advocated for with the former mayor, with the acting mayor, and now the present mayor, and is that we need a space, and we would be willing to provide that service if we could find a space to do so. And I feel it's critical need. I agree with you wholeheartedly, because what happens is most of these children are with us from the day they arrived until the day we say, you need to move on. They don't want to move on. So many of them are with us for like 5 years of their life. And they're not just with us during after school. They're with us on school vacations. They're with us in the summertime. They're always with us as they grow up. And then when they hit 6th grade, at the end of the 5th grade year, we have to say, we have a graduation ceremony, so to make it positive for them. And we have to say, you have to move on. And we don't have any place to move them. So, and that pipeline is broken, I feel. You know?
Well, I mean, the problem is I'm seeing the effects in real time downtown. I spent time at that Macy's downtown, and I can personally tell you that what has now been done, I don't know if now can be fixed, because I have seen kids on numerous occasions coming in, missing school. They're coming in and they could literally come in. I could figure the shifts pretty much at about 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And it's groups of kids, and these kids are pretty much known to the state police, the city police, and the transit police. So that's bad. I mean, you're talking, these are kids starting fights. These are kids starting, I mean, it was probably about $100,000 or more in damage done to that store downtown, personally. So I've witnessed it, and my wife has witnessed it when she used to work there. So I've seen, and these kids have there's no consequences. Nothing's done. There's no, I know what you guys were looking at, but the unfortunate thing is now that consequence decision has now start wreaking havoc on the community. And now people don't want to go down there. They're afraid. That's something that maybe needs to be seriously looked at. And maybe we don't give somebody another, whatever it is in the city mayor's office over there. I don't know, but something's got to be done, because if it doesn't get done, we're not going to have much of a downtown to come to. Be honest with you, it's about.
I'll put on my city hat right now, and this is one of the biggest biggest reasons why I was a proponent for the high school going to the Wonderland site, because the Wonderland site, I was really involved with the initial planning of the high school design aspects and whatnot, and was a very big proponent for them to be able to have not only the high school but community center inside there and spaces for organizations such as Debbie to come in and run programs. And there would have been a central gym in the middle of it with rooms all around the side of it to be able to do programs such as this. And for obvious, I call it obvious reasons, the political hat came out and stopped that. And you're trying to put a round peg in a square hole by trying to put it, not to get too political, into an area where you're going to get a squished school that's not going to be able to have space for things such as that if it was going to the Wonderland site, which is a great need. We need buildings that will be able to house programs such as Debbie is proposing that she would do if there's space. And the problem that's been going on for years is nobody thinks outside the box. Nobody foresees what needs to be done and what could be done to help that. And these are things that need to be done and brought to the forefront now.
Well, a good example you would see, Ralph, that the with what's not happening is you're not seeing people thinking years ahead. Meaning, I've seen there was a thing I was watching, and it was showing abandoned schools, for example. One was built in 1926, stopped being used in 1996. So they're not thinking when they build these things, they don't realize the cost of this stuff, and they're not thinking that we need to be more of a longer term plan, that building's got to last 100, 150 years. But they're not thinking like that. So it's a
The only problem is the life expectancy of a school building is 50 to 60 years.
Well, then the taxes need to start thinking different, because
that's the problem.
That's ridiculous. Your house lasts more than 50 years.
Well,
I mean, that's
the problem with the school. The problem is technology changes, needs and needed. And, you don't just think 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have that. We didn't have all that technology. And, we didn't have spaces in the buildings for any of that. So that's the problem. That's why they said the lifespan of a school is 50 to leave. Debbie would know better than that, but that's what what I've always been thought to think of as a school is usually 50 to 60 years, maybe 70 is the tops for the life expectancy of a school building.
Well, that's expensive tax money. I mean, I'm just looking at that as, I mean, your house has to have new technology too at some point. I mean, eventually things have to change. Indoor plumbing had to be made. So, right. I mean, we have to stop thinking in one way, because we're burning everything, and where's all this tax money get out? I mean, it's just, we can't help everybody. And now look at those kids that are more at risk. I mean, those young kids, and I don't mean in a disrespectful way, but the young kids, really, the middle school is what we have to worry about, because those are the kids that are hanging out with the gangs. Those are the kids that are turning around and causing that problem that they let go now, that might have been stopped.
Yeah.
Now,
and you think
Deb,
about
the question that I have is, all your programs in all the cities all go up to the same age group, right? It's not just in Revere. They all go to the
no.
Just
It depends on different cities have different ages that we serve, depending on the school that we're in or the community building that we use. So it's every community has its own unique challenges, whether it's in Revere, it's space right now, right? I think it's, folks coming together, and right now we can't put the whole burden on the school as it exists, right? And I talked to Mayor Keefe about this, and he's like, he gets it and he wants to address it. And we have to find some community buildings that are going to be open for use, whether they're city buildings or whether they're community partners or faith-based groups that want to allow us to use their spaces. Because what happens is 98% of the kids that come to our program right now are on state subsidy, which means they have a state voucher, which means they are eligible for funding so their families can go to work, or they have a demonstrated need. That funding does not expire until their 13th birthday. However, it does expire because they can no longer come to us after their 10th birthday, right? So I think that's the issue right now is where do we find the space? We can figure out the funding. We, for example, have the capacity to open another building. We know how to do it. And we know how to serve that age group because we have in the past. However, I think we need the community to help us. Like when we have landlords, their fees are exorbitant. When you go to like, business owners in the city and say, well, how much is it going to cost to rent this space? And they say like,
Yeah.
20,000. I mean, it's incredible what they
Right.
are asking for, So I think that's where I hope with the, now that we've, the voters have decided who the mayor is, I think, I really want to have that conversation with him again and see if we can address this population. We have the Revere Parks and Rec, we have Youth Zone. However, that's kind of all we have, right? Maybe some home-based providers that take the kids after school, that age group. But if they're not involved in sports or in
Right.
some after school like focused activity, which is often seasonal, then
Right.
I don't.
Exactly. That's what I was just gonna say. Yeah. We need
Yeah.
something that's because of the season changes here. We really do need something that's indoor, because especially if inclement weather comes. So we do, we depend, we're incumbent to what the weather does here too. So we really do need something that's indoors.
Excuse me, guys, I gotta go because I got a ride coming. They're sending it kind of early for me, but I gotta head to Brookline from Quincy. So
No
Thank
worries.
you.
Thank you. Nice to having this conversation. So yeah,
So-
so it's a really good point.
bye.
So if I can just chime in for a minute, because I'm really interested to hear anyone else's view, thinking outside the box. And the only reason I'm thinking of it is I don't even know why, but we're looking at the population of 10-year-olds to 13, 14. Okay. And has anyone ever thought about tapping into, say, the Jack Satter House to maybe open a pilot program, a multi-generational, where there might be, I'm not saying it's a permanent location, but instead of looking for one huge site, to maybe have like an offshoot of a site, offer a multi-generational program for after school. So have still your staff people on site, but we're missing a whole era of people who have knowledge, who have compassion, who have stories, who have already lived and done their work and done their professions and whatnot, that could really help some of these kids. I know that at one time the Matola Post, before it became the PACE program, they were kind of what to do with that site. Then, of course, the age-old problem of, we have the old McKinley School. What do we do with that? But you've got assisted livings, you've got Jack Satter House, which is, housing, but you have some sites that maybe could help transition some of those kiddos at least into a program. Yes, it would be off-site. It would not be one location, but maybe picking away at 10 or 20 is better than just leaving everybody behind in the interim. So I'm just thinking, I don't know, what else is out there as far as space. We don't have space, but there's space that's being underutilized or could be utilized across the generations. And, I know that it's been done in other communities. I know that Natick took one of their older schools, made it into a multi-generational service center / community center, and it is utilized by like all spectrums of the ages. So any other thoughts on that, or am I like in a zone on my own over here?
I know the wellness center is going to be opening up soon, and the fruition for the wellness center is that they wanted to be able to see about doing having nonprofits in there. And Debbie probably knows about that more, but I think there's a lot of constraints that they've had with the building that may not allow them to be able to do that because of licensing and permitting. But I don't know if that has changed. But that could be one place that may be able um, to accommodate it in the near future.
Yeah, that would be an opportunity. The conversation started in the prior administration. And so, perhaps we can come back and revisit that partnership. I think, what I find middle school age youth want is autonomy. They want to hang out, right? They maybe want to shoot some hoop, but they want to just chill and like have conversation with each other, eat food and listen to some music and have some relationships with some like older teens or like youth that they look up to, right? Some caring adults. Like they don't want to do arts and crafts, which is one of the reasons why we made this shift at
They need the more the social emotional.
right. They definitely they're more relational, right? They're finding out who they are. And so I think, I like your idea about having this intergenerational. We did this before. We called them foster grandparents. We had an intergenerational program back in the day when we were housed in the schools. And that was a very successful program. We actually brought the elders into the program to work with the kids, and that worked out really well. And so like I see some opportunity there. I think it's a great opportunity. I do think we have to figure out carving out space for them that they call their own, that they're safe in, right? They have to own it, feel safe in it. And that doesn't have to be, we've done successful programming in churches, in basements of churches. We were in the American Legion one year in a community. We right now we're opening a middle school program in the city of Chelsea in a school. We've been in storefronts. I mean, so there's ways you can do it. And right now there's funding opportunities too. Because I think what's happening is the leadership up at the Hill is recognizing there's trauma right now that these kids are holding. This isn't like before. I mean, we've always seen the middle school kids at risk, but they're really at risk right now. So we've got to address this, right? So I think like if it'd be great, like I'm so happy this commission exists because I think this is a good place for the conversation to happen. And the leadership could begin here, right? With you folks who get it.
Yeah, well, because we see it all the time, especially with children for all abilities. There's a lapse for them, and that's where we need to start, and from there you build upon it for all students, because of COVID, you have a lot more students that have social and emotional disadvantages now. So there's a great need in the community, not only for those students, but especially students with disabilities. There's really not a lot for them, and I'd love to see that you do offer programs, and your facility is handicap accessible, especially to get up to the basketball court. It's just a great option for them.
Yeah. I think transportation too is something that has to be part of the conversation because that's a significant challenge. Is like, how do we get the students from school to the after school program? Given they're middle school kids, they don't drive, their families, their caregivers are probably working, right? Or not accessible, which is why they're on the streets. So I think like that's something too that has to be, that's very costly. That is a huge burden on our budget right now, is paying for the cost of transport.
That's where you need the partnership with the schools, because the kids are already at the schools.
Right.
You go in there and run the programs at the schools, like you had in the past.
Yeah.
That's where the partnerships have to be better than they are right now. And that's what's needed. That not to desecrate the programs that are going on now, but my feeling is the programs that are going on now in the school are basically almost like babysitting. They're not what's really needed. Pauline, you would know better than me because you were in the schools during them a lot.
Oh yeah. No, it is. I don't know how to put this gingerly, but it's just like, for some of it, the kids were very well guided with, getting them to get their homework and getting them outside and getting them some activity so that they had that good balance. But a lot of it wasn't delving into the specifics of who are you, who do you want to become, what do you need from us. Those conversations, I don't think when I was there, I didn't see it. And I know, having worked as a multi-level of everything, as a nurse, as a para, I worked in a small learning group, substantially separate. I worked in inclusion. So I worked kind of across the venues, and I saw and I met with a lot of the kids that did go to after school programs, whichever ones they were in, whether it was a private, whether it was, an at-home facility, whatever area. And that was like the biggest thing, is that nobody was really finding out who they were, what were they all about. And that's why, the biggest thing, having 3 kids of my own, granted mine are, well, I have one teenager left, but she's out of high school. The other 2 are in their 20s. But, having lived through that and trying to, remember and recall what helped them the most is finding themselves, is finding their channel, finding their avenue, and exposing them to a number of things. And that is why when I was saying multi-generational, because I know that like places like the Satter House, they have their own facilities for meal preparation. And I have a neighbor who does work it's not a facility in Revere, but she does work as a director of dining services at a facility where they do have young kids coming in, and they do like after school meal preparation. Like, what would you like to see for a snack? What do you find comforting when you're coming home, if there's not an adult at home, or, for the 5th graders or even the older kids? So yeah, I mean, it's trying to identify and finding out who they are so that they can develop into their best self. And when you look at that, yes, you've got that great target because you're doing K through 5. And everyone says, oh, those middle schoolers, I would never want to work that age group. I worked that age group, and it was tough. I worked it, though, in the 90s, so that's how old I am. But, you look back and they're having that still internal struggle, no matter whether it's now or whether it was 20 or 30 years ago. I want to be an adult. I want to be treated like an adult, but I'm still a kid, and I still need someone to tell me I'm okay and to tell me I'm safe. And so that's where your struggles are going to come in. But I'm trying to brainstorm as I'm listening, and think of all these great solutions that could come forth. And, unfortunately, in a city that is so crowded and space is, we need to look at utilizing what we have to the best of our ability. It is going to be a challenge, but it's one that, certainly I'm supportive of it. I think it's a great thing. My kids never did go to an after school program. I was home. I worked the school day, and that's why I worked there, for that reason. But knowing that, the things that I integrated into their elementary and their middle school and even high school after school hours were the things that I would think that every program should be able to give them some of that.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
love what you said. Yeah. I think one thing that would be helpful, and perhaps I don't want to put more work on the commission. However, a mapping like exercise, doing some sort of an analysis and assessment in terms of what resources exist right now in the community and where are they, right? Is like, we know that there are after school programs in the K-5 schools right now. So there's a provider there in the school. And then we're outside the school as a community-based provider. Are there other community-based providers that are addressing that population? And what about the middle school? Are there community-based providers that are in the middle school right now doing work? What does that look like? Where are the gaps? because I think we haven't done that exercise yet. I think that's really
Right.
important. We did
Yeah,
it.
start with what you know or what you don't know, and do an
Yeah.
evaluation. Absolutely, that's a great place to start. You can come up with 1,000 solutions, but why reinvent the wheel if the solution is already
Right.
there?
Right, because I remember Youth Zone. I'm not sure if they still exist and what they look like, if they do still exist, but they used to have a program at the Mass General on
I
Revere
believe
Beach.
I believe they still do. Then they were in the post office in the basement before
Right.
COVID, so I'm not sure
Yeah,
if they're still there.
they were. We were in there before them. That
Hmm.
that was an experience. But they so yeah, so like why we got to be talking to them, right? Because let's see, they could be guaranteed they're at capacity. Like, you know what I mean? So like, but we have to look at where is, how many do they serve? Where are the gaps? What are the needs?
Mhm.
If we want kids to come, what is it that they like? You said that nobody was listening to the kids. I heard you say that clearly, right?
Yep. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
All right. Well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to move on, or I'll run out of time to do the rest of my meeting before my time cuts out. But this has been very informative. And Debbie, I really appreciate you coming in. I know we'll be talking offline about other things, and so that we can keep moving forward and try and bridge a lot of the gaps that are out there.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here and meeting all of you.
I
And it's
appreciate it.
very informative. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Thank you so
thank you
much.
so much.
Appreciate it. Have a
Bye-bye.
great night.
Bye-bye.
I'm going to I'm going to try and go through the rest of the meeting as quickly as I can. Item number 4 was the Dakota Commission on Disabilities Alliance monthly Zoom meeting, which happened on Wednesday, November 1st. The agenda that went out, it wasn't the notes weren't ready in time for the posting, so I have it now. There was a discussion on paraprofessionals being called to act as substitute teachers and how this leaves students that they normally assist without the proper help and guidance. So there's a lot of discussions on that that's happening in some communities. Also, a few cities and towns discussed complete winter overnight parking bans. Some of the cities and towns, what it is it's not just during snow emergencies. They do not allow overnight parking on their streets during the winter months, December, January, and February. Luckily, we don't have to deal with that here in Revere. And the third discussion was continued discussions from previous month's meeting on some ADA transition planning. Excuse me. Some cities and towns are in the preliminary stages of trying to figure out how to do self-evaluation and transition planning. So that's what happened at that quota monthly meeting. Item number 5 is the CPAC November, December events. So I don't know if Robert has anything to add to that, because I didn't have anything the time of posting on that. So if there's
Yeah,
any updates.
nothing on the forefront yet.
Okay.
I think we're still trying to figure out the whole board situation. So
Still no election.
yeah, well, yeah, and even though with nobody putting in for it,
Okay.
putting their hat in the ring. Yeah,
So no one has offered to run.
correct.
Okay. Perfect. To run for office. Okay, perfect. Item number 6, there was a Metropolitan Beach Commission annual hearing that took place on October 31st at the State House, and people could attend virtually. Unfortunately, I could not go in person, but I did attend virtually, where the new DCR commissioner, our former mayor Brian Arrigo, spoke about some initiatives that the DCR has begun regarding more informational signage that will be available in multiple languages with the use of QR codes. He also mentioned that they are working to ensure more accessibility for everyone, including people with disabilities, at public beaches and DCR properties. It was also mentioned that Revere Beach will have 264 feet of new accessible beach mats so that people with mobility difficulties will be able to go down to the water. At this meeting, when I was on the virtual hearing, I spoke on a few areas of concern that I would like to see DCR address for all public beaches, but especially for Revere Beach. The first one was the boulevard needs to have more ASL, which stands for audible signalization lights installed. It's
Thank
very
you.
difficult for anyone to cross the boulevard, but especially people with disabilities such as visual impairments. The next thing I mentioned, although 264 feet of beach accessible mats at Revere Beach is a good start, more are needed. DCR must do a better job of maintaining the mats each day when they rake the sand. The next thing I spoke about is implement better system for and access to beach mobility chairs, along with providing more information on how and where to find them, especially at Revere Beach, and also make sure there's an adequate supply for use, along with providing a way for people to safely store their wheelchair or scooter if applicable. And then DCR should look at ways to create a family quiet area on public beaches or properties to accommodate families, especially those with disabilities. This is done at various sports venues throughout the county. So that's what I brought to the hearing as my suggestions. So I don't know if anybody wanted to make any quick comments on that, or if that sounded okay.
I think
That
those are
sounds
all
good.
valid requests.
Okay. The next is item number 7 was commission members' late items or information. I didn't know if either one of you had anything that you needed to mention. But I also, if not, item number 2 was that we skipped over, Polly, while we were trying to get you on because of the technical difficulties that we're having tonight. Is any updates for any calendar monthly guests for the future? You're still working on that, correct?
I'm still working on that, and I'm a little disappointed that, to the 2 folks that I did reach out to, neither one has reached back. So
Okay.
We'll see. I'm going to keep plugging away.
Okay, thank you, Pauline.
All righty.
And if there's no commission member late items of information, item number 2 is resident concerns and issues. I'm still getting a lot of phone calls on people for handicap placards. So once again, I will state that is done only through the registry of motor vehicles. Also, handicap signs. If you're looking for a handicap sign, you still have to have a handicap placard first. And there's an application process that has to be filled out by you and your doctor that can be downloaded from the Commission Disabilities website on the city webpage, or by calling the Disabilities office, and we find out a way for you to pick up that form to fill out. Also, a handicap sign. Anyone who has, if you apply for one and are approved by the Traffic Commission, anyone who has a handicap plate or placard is allowed to park at that spot, even though you did the paperwork to fill it out. A lot of people still think that because they did that handicap sign is theirs and only theirs. It's on public property, which is the street, and anybody that has a handicap plate or placard that's valid can park at that sign. So I just want to make sure I reiterate that information to everyone. Next steps, we don't have any next steps from this meeting. Item number 10 is the reminder that I'll read for you, Pauline.
Thank you.
The Commission on Disabilities office number is 781-286-8267. Residents can also call Revere 311 directly and speak to their staff Monday through Friday. They will be able to answer most questions, but if they are unable to, or if you would like to speak to our department directly, please ask to be transferred to the disability office. If we are unavailable, please leave a detailed message and someone will get back to you as soon as possible. As always, please let us know if you would like something discussed or brought up and added to our monthly meeting agenda. You can let us know if you would like to speak on any issue or concern. The Commission is here to help and assist all the disabled residents and families of Revere. Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I just wanted to wish everyone a happy holiday. And for those that celebrate Thanksgiving this month, please have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Do not eat too much turkey if you eat turkey, or too much chicken if you eat chicken, or whatever you eat, don't eat too much of it. So I will ask for a motion to adjourn from the 2 members that are on the meeting. The 2 other members had to leave, and L, unfortunately, is having a medical concern, so was unable to attend the meeting tonight. So if I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Okay, and I'll second. There you go.
Robert,
Sorry.
Robert and Pauline. Okay,
All
with that
righty.
being said, motion to adjourn is done, and our next meeting via Zoom will be Tuesday, December 12th at 6 p.m. and hopefully we can get these technical issues corrected, and I will work on that. But thank you again for attending, and have a good night.
Thank
You as
you
well.
as well.
Good night.
Good night.